Hi, welcome everyone. This is Seeking Harmony in Unionism Spiritual Discussion. This is part 41 of our talk. And yeah, I don't know, we're just gonna open it up to the team members to share anything from, the news, world events that's going on and what we feel about it. So does anyone have a topic in mind that they really want to talk about? Let me see.
I was going to say, I think if you guys are okay with it, we can start with the stuff going on with FIFA and the World Cup.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess where my mind goes, just with all the things as of late, with, I forgot his name, I guess the head of FIFA, just making the hour-long speech that he did in response to kind of the criticism going on about or towards Qatar and like how they could potentially treat people who are visiting, and the alcohol ban. And so I thought it was very interesting that he decided to have an hour-long response, not really I guess trying to find a solution. It was more like a lot of defending what Qatar was doing and basically just justifying their decision further. So I felt like the response, I don't know, as I was reading the article that I shared, I just felt like there was a lot of resistance and almost like he was trying to deflect any sort of maybe responsibility or even just acknowledgement that things could be problematic given the track record of that country. And so I don't know how you all felt about it. So that's kind of where my mind went.
Yeah, I would say the reason why it got backlash was, I think, mainly the parts where he said, like, today I feel like African and I feel Middle Eastern and I feel LGBT and I feel like we're all unified, and that's what FIFA and Qatar supports or something like that. And yeah, not only did it feel like clumsy, as many people said afterwards, but also it felt like it was avoiding the main things that people wanted to discuss, like the core of why the meeting was taking place, And yeah, I feel like it's just been like clumsy interventions after clumsy interventions for this World Cup. And also it was funny that at about the same time, or I think the day after, it was discovered that Qatar tried to pay people from Ecuador, from the Ecuador team, to lose the match. Yeah, and try to bribe them. And also there are like stories about Qatar possibly being on the brink of being disqualified from their own World Cup, like even though they are hosting. So I think what, like, the light bulb that went off in my mind basically after like the bribing of the Ecuador team was how much I think money is involved into this. And we know money is involved into this, but I think we don't understand, I think we don't understand how much FIFA values money, and how much it gets its relationships and its attraction growing. Because a lot of football players are sold from teams to teams, and it's often said that their price is absurd, and there is a lot going on in terms of money there. And I think if we take into consideration that organization has been valuing money, not that it's a bad thing necessarily, I think we can understand why it's made the choices that it's made and why it's backed up Qatar amidst all the scandal that has been going on, and why it's trying to save face right now, even though in terms socially and in terms of image, it's not the best, but it's still of interest for them. So I think it will be interesting to see the cost, the monetary cost, the social cost of the World Cup for them, to see what will be the true impact for them and how much they will value what happened. But yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about that as well, Sage and Isaiah.
Yeah, I was wondering, was that because when you say that they're valuing money and that's why they chose Qatar to host, was it because there was bribery involved from Qatar, or was it because Qatar just had the money to build the stadium or stuff like that?
I'm not sure there was bribery involved. Oh, I think, yeah, Qatar's election to be a hosting country has been denounced for about 10 years, and people thought there was money involved. I don't know if it was in the form of bribery, but just that we know that Qatar owns a lot of clubs, owns a lot of shares in football, and can just basically cushion the FIFA organization in some way, in some monetary way. And the fact that they're hosting the World Cup is a kind of cushion for them, because a lot of the money that Qatar makes in that also goes to FIFA in a certain way. I don't know how much how that works exactly, but it feels that way. And so even without bribery, I feel it was what pushed the decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think they've been building the stadium for a very long time, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's been a lot of prior investment that's been going on for I think almost a decade. I can't remember if that's what I read or not, but there's been a lot of time and money put into them hosting the World Cup. So I definitely feel like the response was very much based on that fact, and kind of why FIFA is not outwardly, being critical towards the issues and trying to kind of unite instead of what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Wasn't it to is this right? I think I read this or heard this, that Iran didn't participate in the national anthem to kind of show protests against what Qatar is doing and representing with, all of their, basically, that they don't honor human rights, you know. Is that's right that they didn't participate?
It was mostly that the players didn't participate in Vietnam to protest about their own government, and the Iranian supporters were booing Vietnam in protest of what's going on in Iran right now. So it's a bit like different. But yeah, I do like how like international sports events can be a way to communicate. It's always a way to communicate politically, like like all entertainment. I feel like World Cup and Eurovision are like these big things that can be like instrumental to politics, and that's why they happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I was feeling to ask about the Qatar thing. In truth, do you guys feel like is there any merit to Qatar hosting the World Cup? Or do you feel like it's just kind of corruption, not corruption, like is it just driven by greed and they're just willing to weather any sort of problems that this causes just for the cause of like making more money? Or do you feel like there's like some merit to it? You know?
You know, I was kind of thinking about this earlier, and I don't know. I feel like I agree with you in a way that I feel like a lot of it is based on greed, even if, I mean, it is interesting, I guess, that it's the first Middle Eastern country to host, you know, a World Cup. But I still feel like FIFA has some sort of responsibility to ensure that the country that they choose kind of holds the standards that the organization tries to you know, emit, and just show that these are our values, because you know they're talking about inclusion and unity, but yet they pick a country that doesn't necessarily hold those values to be important in their society. And so I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect there, and I kind of attribute it to the fact that a lot of money has gone into it, and it's a way for FIFA to make money. And you know, we don't know what kind of happens behind closed doors. I don't know if there was like full-on corruption or anything, but I would definitely say there is a instrumental interest, there's a monetary interest, and which may prevent them from, you know, fully like thinking through that decision. That's kind of my feeling of it.
Well, I feel like all countries hosting like an international event have some sort of like political agenda around it, like to be more visible, to attract like tourism, to boost the economy. And but I feel like, you know, the Olympic Games, to be a hosting country, you have to go through so many hoops, I feel. Then that the choice to have Qatar hosting almost felt like, in terms of like FIFA choosing its countries, it felt, I don't know, it just felt like weird. It just felt like they were not like withholding like the values that were presented in the communication of such an important event. It was just like, it does feel like it was just about money. And in truth, like hosting an event, even though it's costly, it holds many advantages for a country, and it promotes it positively. in most ways, and people are still going to go through it. You can't really blame like supporters and people wanting to go there, because it's been the country of choice for this event. And so yeah, it just felt like, I don't know if like it was ever about merit, but it does feel like it was a bit like one-dimensional thing, and it was all about like maybe profit in some way.
Mhm. Yeah, I felt that. I felt like the FIFA chair, or the FIFA, I don't know what to call him, the president, was like trying to deflect from all of Qatar's issues about like human rights, and treating the immigrant workers fairly, and also treating LGBTQ people fairly, although I don't know how that's materializing in the event so far, but definitely like the treatment of migrant workers, that is something that they're overlooking. And I think they're trying to do it really in favor of like saying like Qatar is, like the first Middle Eastern country to host. It's a Muslim country. It's like it's a different culture than any of the other countries that have ever hosted. And so, just be nice and just don't make a fuss about this, because like they deserve to host. And I feel like obviously, yes. I mean, in truth, it's an international organization, and all different countries should host, because that's what it is. It's an international partnership in sporting and stuff, which is great. But I just feel like they're trying to like hide behind this issue of being like, no, this it's about like, we picked them because it's their time to host, and you guys are being intolerant and all of that. And I'm just like, well, that's the same thing that Qatar was saying, basically, was coming out of the government. And I was like, yes, but like, these are real issues. Can you really ignore that? Like, just for the sake of them hosting, is it okay for you to like suspend your values about like what is okay? That was my feeling about it.
I was thinking about it this weekend. It almost felt like we should like invent a word about what they're doing, because it feels like Muslim baiting or like ethnic baiting. I don't know what it is, but they're baiting us with that unity and diversity shit, and to kind of cover up that the rest of it, the basis of it, is not okay,
Yeah, I would definitely agree. That's kind of what it feels like to me. And I mean, I don't know, it's almost kind of offensive in a way. Like, you're a sports organization that constantly is trying to seem like you're including everyone and you're thoughtful about things, and it's more, and the spirit of unity in sports and all that. And when things like this happen, it becomes very apparent that there's other things beneath the surface that are really motivating them. And it's just kind of disappointing, I guess, that money, I mean, it's not surprising, but every time you see it, it's just disappointing, because okay, here we go, like money kind of being the thing that compels people and is what people choose to accept, instead of trying to really like make an event that would be very historic and would really change the tone of things. But it just feels like more of the same, even though they're trying to make it seem like it's not, because of the same. I like how you said it, Yureen. That is very interesting. The Muslim baiting, the ethnic baiting, like they try to shine a light on this one thing instead of like actually being honest with what is, what is going on. And I'm sure for people, the athletes and, the fans, it's very, and just, spectators, it's that are not necessarily like fans of soccer, it's just, I'm sure it's not very comfortable to be a part of and to witness.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that it teaches people that, I don't know, just that ultimately that what we want is we want new organizations that do value love and value do value people and truly all people, and that do uphold their values, and they don't just just cave into money, and that ultimately that is what we want. And how that would pan out with this in this case is a complete unknown to me, but I choose it. Let's do it. And yes.
Yeah.
But it's obviously
Yeah.
not what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Maybe it will be a trigger for change. Obviously, when you're FIFA and you're in Qatar, you can't really cut your ties with the hosting country, because that would be, I guess, very bad. I think more bad things could happen than right things right now if they had another discourse. But afterwards, who knows? Who knows where this is going? And I almost would say what God has planned with what has happened. We often see these loud, very loud events that are triggering this international responses on every front, and we see it every day. And we're seeing it with Iran, and maybe, just maybe, it would be the same for sports and entertainment, and maybe people are going to be choosing more and more to value human life over finances. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
To be
And
continued.
Yeah, and for Qatar too, it might be transformative to
Mhm.
see all these people flooding in from all these countries around the world, and it might maybe influence their society, to I don't know, to change in some way that feels good to them, So yeah. And embrace more, perhaps embrace more freedom.
I like that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Well,
Are
I
you
mean,
ready
I
to-
think,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. No,
Uh,
go ahead.
I recall that the president of FIFA kind of mentioned that very thing, that they were going to stay in the country and, give it support and make sure certain things change. So there seems to be a desire, at least, whether it's a superficial one or actually a genuine one is left to be seen. But yeah, I have hope. Let's choose love. If we do it, hopefully it will have a ripple effect around the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and it will. But I think that choosing to host it in Qatar and then being you're hoping that the country will change, or or you're telling them please, we hope that you change these things so that it isn't this PR disaster. So please do that, is not a good strategy, because you can't count on that, So not even if it's a dictatorship, where in a democracy it would be even more out of the question, because stuff can change so much. But I was like, yeah, no, that's not really good. I think the most divine thing that he could have done was just be like, it's happening. Obviously, this tournament is happening, but we acknowledge that there are all of these issues, and at this point we can just like ensure they hold their agreement as best as possible and do that going forward, you know, more so. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
but who knows if that would have been another like PR disaster, because it feels like almost like Qatar is like holding the gun to their head or something, you know, and they're almost like, it feels like they're afraid. That's what it is. It feels like they're afraid of the consequences if they speak up right now. So they say like, better shut up while it's ongoing, or and agree with Qatar. And yeah, I think that's because it's always been done that way, like having the partnership with the hosting country, no matter what, because you want to ensure that everything is going smoothly, not just for you, but for the security of the supporters and for their safety and the players and things like that. And it feels like almost like deal with the devil this time, because it feels like they're scared and Qatar is unpredictable. So who knows what they would be doing, or who knows what the FIFA organization is afraid of, what they would be doing, you know? And maybe like it's idle threats, but I think it's still in their mind. And yeah, but just like what it's feeling in my heart, like it feels like there's fear there.
yeah, not that it's on them. Like if they spoke up and Qatar responded by like doing something negative, like to the World Cup event, like that's not on FIFA. I think FIFA would think so, and people might think so, but that doesn't really, you know, matter. That would be on Qatar. It's their choice, right, to respond that way, instead of like, you know, still choosing to, you know, love the people attending and playing and do their best, you know, and everything, and not like try to, I don't know, retaliate. So yeah, I would hope they wouldn't, man. That's not cool.
Yeah. So you think it's a fear of their ruining their reputation, FIFA, that prevents them from making different choices?
I don't even know, but like, yeah, I was thinking about something and then I forgot. I don't know what the core of it is exactly, but it feels like they're scared of like repercussions, or maybe like, oh yeah, they're scared of like what's uncomfortable. Like they don't want to like feel what's uncomfortable. It's like a human being that doesn't want to feel its feeling because it's uncomfortable. And so they sit in that very like most uncomfortable position, so they don't have to look on the most uncomfortable feeling or something like that. Yeah, but that's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like it's so much like a threat or like a fear that would be verified. Mostly that FIFA has to grow and evolve, and maybe they've been like resistant about it.
Yeah, I feel when I feel into it, I feel that as well. And they probably don't want to like go into that, like, because by admitting that there were some mistakes, or maybe that like in choosing Qatar as the host, they were mistaken, or there are these issues and we acknowledge them, that they might think that that will show that their motivations weren't pure, weren't what they said, and they just really don't want that. You know, they just don't want to communicate like, hey, you know, like finances, like the profit making here really factored in, and we found that that was not a good decision. Like no company says that. Nobody says that these days. Nobody, unless like, yeah. So no organization, at least. I can't think of any, maybe, but so I'm just like, that's probably what it is. It's just like this defense of it, you know, and trying to avoid it. And yeah, I don't know. It's another like little like um another little bit of pressure, I think, against that. You know what I mean? Like that pattern and everything. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we'll see how this play out.
Yeah. Should be interesting.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm interested to see how, if there is any news about LGBTQ attendees and how they are treated, because I haven't heard yet since it's so recent, but we will see. Yeah.
I did hear something about the armbands, because weren't a few athletes wearing armbands to stand with LGBTQ people, but then I don't know if this is correct, but they were told to remove the bands or something like that happened, or Isaiah, do you know?
Yeah, it's that there were bans at first, you know, to show people who are in support of the LGBTQ community there, and then they were asked to take them off and not wear them. So now, and also I think it was that even the word love could not be written on their shirts. Like they couldn't put the word love on the front of their shirts. Is that right, Sage? Is that what it was?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't read that.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
I read that because like, you know, love is like it was basically like they banned love and rainbows from the World Cup, and it's like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean,
God.
yeah, but I mean, like it. Yeah, you know what that means, though. I mean, it's obvious if they put love on their like shirt or whatever, that is referring to a certain subset of love, not just like in general. But no, I know what you mean. It does sound ridiculous to ban love.
but yeah, it's just, yeah, I mean, that's the level that's where Qatar is at, which it's like they just don't accept any show of like any possibility of LGBT love. And yeah, I don't think the World Cup should be in Qatar. So I don't know. It's just weird. But on LGBT news, anyway, I don't know if you guys would want to move on to talk about what happened in Colorado Springs. Does it feel like a good time to switch topics?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Sure.
I would love for you guys to like, catch me up on that. And I know like you were referring to Colorado Springs being kind of tense because of like its political choices, maybe being conservative. So yeah, I would love to have an explanation.
Yeah, so Colorado Springs, actually, Sage and I are not too far from there. It is a more conservative town, but reading further into the story, I don't feel like that had anything to do with the shooting. But so, just an overview of what happened. In Colorado Springs, there's an LGBT club called Club Q, and there someone came into the club with a rifle and just started shooting people with and it was a hate crime. You know, there was no motive just other than insanity, and 5 people were shot and then 25 were injured. And yeah, that's, and then there's some interesting information that came out about the shooter, but I don't know if you guys would want to share anything else about like the basics of what happened there. I can share about
Yeah.
the information that came out about the shooter. So this person is a 22-year-old male, and he basically in 2021 the police were called, and because he made a self-made bomb, and he was literally trying to kill his mother and blow up her and the house that she was in. And so just in obviously like insane situation, and who is out of that situation. So then this person does this insane thing and just gets to walk away from it. And then a year later, they end up going and shooting up a club, and acting out an act of hate. And it's the same exact situation that we talked about with the Parkland shooter. Like, why aren't these people being held accountable? What is going on here? And it's just a complete failure in my eyes in the United States to keep seeing these horrific things happening and not doing anything. It's just a failure, and we really need to we've talked about this before, just own up to what is happening in the US with the gun laws, and that it's not working. We need to change our laws around guns, and like if something, especially like if something like that happens and someone gets to walk, no, that shouldn't happen. There needs to be some consequences, So
yeah, it's very total failure. I mean, I agree, and I keep asking myself, like, what is it that is preventing change from happening? Like, it's, everything seems so politicized, and people are just, talking at each other, but nothing's ever being resolved. So yeah, I share your level of frustration. It's just sad to see. I mean, I don't know how many people have to die for something to change.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like there might be there's still like a prioritization of individual, the kind of like liberty, or like a belief of it. There's a belief about what individuals should be free to do, and what is an individual matter, like a matter of individual choice, instead of like a social matter. And like, I think that I say that because, well, not just somebody's right to like own any type of gun, even if it's like one that is meant for like military use, but also in this case, so like the mother, like the shooter's mother, did not decide to press charges on him when he was like attempting to murder her. And this was his mother, and so because she was so close to him and she had this attachment, or something, or whatever it was, she just was like, no, like, I don't want my son getting some sort of like penalty for this, or I don't want him to be disciplined for this. And so protecting him against that. And I think that it kind of shows, like, my question would be like, why is it that he wasn't charged because she didn't want to press charges? Why would it not be a matter of like the people, like the state of Colorado versus this guy? Because, it's like a public safety issue, right? Like, why could he not be prosecuted on the behalf of the people of Colorado? Or, you know what I mean? And it just seems weird to me that it's like an individual matter. Like, you're like, do you want to press charges? No? Okay. Let him go.
Yeah.
I was like, really?
That part is weird because he committed a crime technically. And so I don't know if it has to do with the fact that his victim is a family member or what, but
Yeah.
I don't know the nuance with the law. But I really think you like kind of hit on something with the United States and this idea of just individualism and, you know, especially the right to bear arms. Like people constantly quote the Constitution, but that was written in a very different time within a very different context. Like we don't live in that kind of world society anymore. And even like the meaning of the amendment was, I think, specific to just you know, even a certain group of people within society at that time. So, but people just use that as a justification for holding on to a very outdated idea that seems to cause more harm than any good. And you know, and then my question will be, well, what about the rights of the individuals at the club that are just trying to have a good time and dance and just be with their friends, you know, whatever they're doing? What about their individual rights to be safe and not, you know, get harmed? I mean, it's crazy to me that the right of the individual in terms of having weapons and using those weapons is protected, but then the rights of individuals to go out and be safe is just never brought up. I don't understand that disconnect. Yeah.
You're all like, I think you all have part of the truth. You all share equal parts of the truth. I think Isaiah and Sage have something in terms of like, it feels like it's a repeated history. And we've talked about the exact same things. In Parkland, I think the father did not press charges against his son, and the police let him go. And so it's exactly like when we see people staying in relationship and accepting abuse just because they love their partner and something like that. So it feels like there's so many layers to this, but basically it starts with this and then it goes to like, it's the same thing like a year later, because we have freedom to bear arms, like there's a mass shooting. And maybe like we don't know all the intricacies of like justice. But like it does feel like there's something missing there, and like maybe like the people of Colorado should like rise up and say, hey, this is not okay, this is not our reality, this is not what we accept. And what is our state gonna do about this? But it feels like there's so many layers to unpack before that. And I also wanted to share, like, it's funny but also kind of sad. My cousin is from Colorado from her father's side, and she studied in the University State of Virginia. And although she lives in Paris, she still has links to these places. And basically last week, I think 10 days ago, the University of Virginia had a shooting and lost some students to that. And now, like the birth state of her family basically has experienced a mass shooting. And so I think, like, I don't know how like American justice functions, but in like France, there is also a justice that evaluates the moral cost of all of these things. And so to join in what Anja was saying, I'm feeling like, how is it that people have always take the freedom to, individual freedom to bear arms, but how is it that there is this moral thing where people like that are like citizens from the United States, like my cousin, just go through their day, and their daily life is hearing that the places they care about, people are dying in, you know, people are being shot. And what is the moral cost of that? what is the social cost of that? How much the American society can bear about that, can bear to, like, before it breaks, because I think there would be like a moment where this daily violence is like, it has like an impact. It bears trauma. And socially, it's like very taxing. And we've already discussed that it doesn't happen quite as much to have daily shootings, mass shootings like that in other countries than in the United States. So what is the healing to have there? And are we going to wait for maybe like, the string to like spring back? I don't know. And like hurt some more people before we're going to do something. And it's always that same question that we have in many of our conflicts, but conflicts that we're talking about. Are we going to wait until the last minute, until, there's something so traumatizing that we must be forced to change? It's just my question. And I know that it's not something easy to change, because it involves, again, so many layers of justice and of like social considerations. But yeah, I think we must like start to go on the path of like reflecting on that and changing that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been feeling this for a long time, that kind of similar to what you said earlier, Irene, about FIFA kind of not looking at certain things, like wanting to ignore certain things. Or maybe Sage said this, I don't know. I'm a little tired today. My memory's off. But it almost feels like the issue with mass shootings, there is a bit of ignoring of a root problem. Because, we see a pattern among the shooters. They're all young males for the most part. There might be some deviations, but on average, that's kind of like the demographic. And for a long time, there's been a lot of, academics like sociologists, psychologists, criminologists kind of pointing to issues with that subsector of the society specifically, like feeling very disconnected, not being able to connect with adults, other people around their age, and they kind of internalize within themselves. And when you don't know healthy coping mechanisms, you go down dark paths, and the abundance of guns just makes it easier for people to kind of take their frustrations out. And it becomes, I feel like so much of the attention of the problem is focused on, we have guns, which is a huge problem. I mean, don't get me wrong, there definitely needs to be some regulation, but I also feel like there needs to be acknowledgement of all the pain that exists among young men, it seems to be. And this group specifically, why is there such a big pattern? What is going on that is creating this? I feel like that is the missing part of it that needs to be acknowledged in order for some healing to happen.
Yeah, I think you're touching on something very deep there, and kind of new territory, but it reminds me of an article Jeff shared, I think last year, probably in the chat, about like young men being like, and specifically young white male being more isolated than ever, and like the kind of distress that it was causing on their mental health and physical bodies and things like that. And I know like yeah, probably like all of his movements about like inclusivity, when they're pushed to the extreme sometimes, to the point where young white male feel hated just for being what they are, might cause damage. I don't know if it's like the only thing, but I think what you were saying is that it's definitely touching, it's striking a chord, basically. Like it's definitely part of like maybe like the sickness and the trauma that this demographic has to heal.
Yeah, and that definitely is a huge piece. So many of these mass shooters are these white men, like young white men, who like feel really disaffected and alienated. Another part of it too, this it struck a chord with me what you said too, Andia, because I was a teacher. I was a middle school teacher for a year, and I went to the uh, school for that. I went to school for that, and we studied about that. And a big pattern too in like among teachers or in the education field is that there's more emphasis and much more investment in girls often. Obviously it used to be the opposite, that like boys were seen as the intelligent ones and girls were seen as, you know, less intelligent and just for homemaking and having babies basically. And so obviously feminism and feminists push against that. And now it's almost the opposite though, where a lot of teachers write boys off. They say, oh, boys don't give a shit, like they don't care, whatever, like they only care about what's cool, they're so rebellious, whatever. And so there's a lot more emphasis on girls. And I think that it's because, yeah, that there again, the culture like swinging more toward that side of the spectrum, versus like really privileging males, you know, which is what they used to do. And there's still a lot of like feelings about that, so people don't want to do that, which is understandable. But I think that's like a new frontier of our culture, to really be loving there, because it's important too. And yeah, yeah. And I noticed that too in my career, you know, definitely. I think it's more of just the view that like girls have been socialized often more to be more like accommodating and like socially conscious and stuff like that. And that it's therefore like following the whatever of the classroom, the whatever of the classroom is my formal term, is like more, I don't know, is seen as more, I don't know, acceptable there. I don't know how to express that, but yes, I noticed this too. So, and that's just one, I think one aspect of like this social thing that's going on. Yeah, with the masculine.
I think it also comes down to family though too, because like, so if we look at the two cases that we discussed, like Parkland and this one, it's like, why did these family members just let their kids off? And it just shows that, well, first of all, what that relationship that was there and that is there in that family, like between, it was, I mean, the mother and the son this time, and the other time it was the father and the son, is obviously, there's, it's not a healthy relationship. And it also points to like this toxicity of family relationships where there's this expectation to be loyal, or to like always like you always have to let your family off the hook or be there for your family or whatever. But that mentality is so it's so harmful, because if your family is abusive, or you see that this is like a fucked up relationship, you do not have to honor that. And you shouldn't, actually, you should hold that person accountable no matter who they are, whether they're your parent or you're their kid. like there needs to be accountability in that relationship. There needs to be someone needs to like shine a light on like what's actually happening there. Like what is your child choosing, or what are you as a parent choosing, you know?
Yeah.
You are all touching on these points that make me think like about what we do as unionists, because like what we value is that we're healing family. And the more we heal family, the more the society will heal. And so the fact that there is so much trauma in like a certain demographic, or a feeling of abandon and rejection and isolation, and also healing the family dynamics, which by the way are just like a mirror of what is happening in the society, because like we let people that we care about off the hook until the situation cannot be turned back. Basically, I think nobody would imagine that their son would do that, would do a mass shooting, or and they probably thought that their bad behavior could be contained to certain moments or to just a household, and that it would not impact people. And so they didn't like bring a boundary there. So it's like all of this probably healing that has to come from like the first circle of socialization of children and family members has to do with like family healing. And it's so big that I think once we start like the ground family healing, and like that's why like healing on all levels should be like brought to the maximum people, I think the society is also going to change. So I think it just reinforces that the values that we carry here are essential. Not that we want like to impose a certain way of like thinking and doing to people, but it's just that the healing, like the core of what we are doing, serves a purpose for society and for many people in ways that they don't see, but that can impact them on personal levels and then impact society at large afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely an area like it just shows where families need to heal, like families can heal. Yeah. And so, yeah, I thought that could be a good way to wrap up our discussion, but does any of you have like anything else to share before we go, or any more thoughts on this? Feelings? Okay, cool. Well, we're at our hour, but yes, thank you everybody here for watching, and if you take part in our conversation, thank you for that. We will be back next week. And yeah, thank you if you're watching this on YouTube. If you liked it, you can leave a like, you can subscribe for more of our content from the Church of Union channel. And yeah, thank you very much. We'll see you again next week.